little bit earlier, we were just talking about Madam Web. Well, there's another property coming to us, at least it was, in this extended Sony Spider-Man-less Spider-Verse. That was going to be Silk, but apparently not anymore. Jonathan, what do we got?
Well, according to Variety, the Silk Spider Society live-action series has been scrapped at Amazon. The show was originally greenlit in November of 22, and a deal with Sony Pictures Television to develop a suite of shows based on Marvel characters that Sony controls. The Walking Dead alum Angela Kang was on board as executive producer and showrunner, with Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, and Amy Pascal as executive producers on the series. According to an individual with knowledge of the situation, Sony will try to shop the series to other buyers. John, are you surprised at the cancellation of Silk?
Despite the fact that I was really curious to see it, because you had a really good showrunner, you had Lord and Miller on as executive producers, and it's a really interesting character, I'm not surprised. Look, all Amazon has to do, and I'm glad Sony's going to shop it around to see if somebody else wants to pick it up and greenlight it, but all Amazon has to do is sit back and say, okay, you had Venom, but your live action stuff outside of Venom has been Morbius and Madam Web. And they are laughingstocks. They are literally laughingstocks. Like, I've literally been in conversations with friends and somebody would just say, you know, Madam Web, and people will just start giggling. That's not a good sign. Sony executives, that doesn't mean you re-release it. It's not a good sign. Same thing happened with Morbius. And so I think Sony probably took a look at this, or Amazon took a look at this and said, you know, we're on real good footing right now with The Boys and Fallout, and we got some big things coming. Do we really want to lower the standards and risk something? Again, I wish it was happening because of the people involved. You know, Lord and Miller were not the producers of Madam Web. I think that could have been something kind of neat, but I'm not surprised at all that this got canned. Now, the question becomes, will it get picked up somewhere else? And I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to guess no. I don't think this is going to get picked up anywhere else. Because on top of the fact that you have the struggling track record of Morbius and Madam Web, who's ever heard of Silk? I mean, outside of this room...
I got so proud.
Yeah, I mean, outside of this room and outside maybe your most geekiest inner circles for those of you watching, who's heard of Silk? Like, nobody. So you've got all that working against it. Not that you can't make a show with an unknown character, but you can't make a show with a completely unknown character bringing the baggage of Morbius and Madam Web along with it. So do I hope it gets picked up? Absolutely, I do. Especially with The Walking Dead, with Lord and Miller, all that kind of stuff. A fascinating character. I hope it gets picked up. But I'm not surprised they dropped it, and I don't think that it'll get picked up again. Anyway, Chris, what are your thoughts on all this?
You know, it's honestly kind of a shame, because Silk is a very interesting character, and it sucks that the stench of these other films ruined this because of a reimagining of Madam Web, a character who exists in Spider-Man IP and was utilized in a really ineffective way here. Same thing with Morbius. Same thing with these other things, because Silk is a comic book character who explores those darker things that I think Sony wants to do desperately. Mm-hmm. This character explored trauma. This character explored grief and just had a lot of traits too that are not necessarily seen as heroic. Because of Silk being kept in a bunker and all these other things, she lacks a lot of social grace. She gets jealous very easily. She's incredibly territorial. This is a relatively new character for you guys who haven't checked her out yet. She premieres in Amazing Spider-Man back in 2014. But a really cool character who also got bit that same day that Peter did. And I think this could have been a really interesting series. And I liked that it was going to be a series too, because then you have the time to fully explore that character. But it makes sense. Why would you put out content if it's not firing on all cylinders, if people are not wanting to come back? Because now Sony has to get us to trust them again with this IP. Because so many people fully believe that Sony is tanking the IP. They fully believe that they are just doing bad, batshit things to keep ownership of Spider-Man. And I think a lot of people do kind of enjoy that conspiracy theory, and also just are hesitant to give any of the Spider properties or any of those kinds of Spider adjacent properties a chance. I think this is really telling too that, you know, we just had Noir greenlit, but is that even going to happen? Is Craven going to be kind of the nail in the coffin that makes us all go, nope, we're never going to see a Sony thing again that has Spider IP in it other than the Spider-Verse things? It's just been really troubling how they've handled all of this stuff. And if it was a great script, if it was great content, maybe somebody else would buy it. But I think there's just too much of a stink on it.
You know, it's funny too, like, because I thought about the Spider-Man Noir things, like, why the one and not the other? And I guess the difference between something like Silk and Spider-Man Noir are two things. One, there's an instant novelty factor with Nicolas Cage being attached,
Absolutely.
right? And then the second thing is, this is a character, although I don't know if they're going to say it's the same character, but it's essentially the same character coming out a wildly beloved movie in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So like that had that going for it. Those are both two things that Silk doesn't have going for it. And I really, listen, I hope so hard that Craven is awesome. I hope so hard that Craven is awesome. But I mean, yeah, I don't blame Amazon at all for getting out of the game. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Miracle Made. Did you know that your temperature at night can have one of the greatest impacts on your sleep quality? If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulating bedding so that you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. When they arrived at our house, my wife Ann loved the feel of them so much, she couldn't even wait for me to get home to put them on our bed. Miracle Made has self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevents up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. Miracle Sheets also have incredible comfort and quality. Miracle Sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. So go to TryMiracle, that's TryMiracle.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you will get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to TryMiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's TryMiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Were you surprised to hear the Silk got canceled? I wouldn't blame you at all if you even forgot that it was coming in the first place. Do you think anybody else will pick it up? Do you think maybe the fact that Lord and Miller being attached as the producers on this thing would move the needle for people, or maybe not at all? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.